last cable cast of Ask the Mayor. My name is Dorothy Cornelius, and I'm the city clerk here in Cupertino, and with me is our mayor, Barbara Rogers. Good evening, Barbara.
Good evening, Dorothy. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How about you?
Fine, thanks.
Oh, very good. First of all, let me tell you a little bit of how Ask the Mayor works. Mayor Rogers is here to answer your questions or concerns. Simply dial 252-4641. We have an operator standing by to answer the call. Very briefly give your name and just a simple statement of what it is you either want to talk to Mayor Rogers about or what you wish to ask her a question about. Then that call will be directed right here into council chamber, and you will have the opportunity to talk to your mayor. However, if you don't have a question for the mayor, please stay tuned anyway, because the mayor gives a lot of information about your city during this half hour, and I'm sure you'll find it worthwhile. And Barbara, why don't we start by talking about some of the things council did at their meeting last night?
Fine. Last night's meeting was rather shorter than some we've had, and I think there are 5 main things I'd like to talk about. The first item under public hearings was a request to close the access from Valco Village to Lynette Lane to the west. There had been a lot of problems that the residents there to the west of Valco Village felt they had with people driving through their residential streets as a shortcut, especially during rush hour, to get to Valco Village to shop or eat or whatever. And this has been another one of our ongoing processes that's lasted about 1.5 years. Anyway, when all was said and done last night, we voted 4-0 with Phil Johnson absent to close the access to Lynette Lane to vehicular traffic. We will leave an opening for pedestrians, and hope that this works out well for everybody concerned. We appropriated $3,480 of revenue sharing funds for subsidizing the paratransit service for the elderly and disabled. That's the taxi cab that comes and takes people who are elderly or disabled shopping or to the doctors and so forth. They've had to increase their rates excuse me, because of the increase in liability coverage, the increase in the cost of doing business and so forth. So we are subsidizing them to that amount. We received a written request from people on September Drive about the traffic they have in that area, and we referred it to staff to research and come back with a report and a possible recommendation. When they do that, we will agendize it, and that will be heard, and people living in that area will be notified. Prior to the council meeting, we went on a field trip. One resident went with us. We looked at 2 different facilities for interim council chamber, because we will be starting renovation of this building, expanding into the basement, probably now about the first of the year. And during that time, it would be very difficult to be meeting here in the council chambers for council meetings and planning commission meetings with jackhammers and dusts and so forth. We looked at both Apple and Motorola and Hewlett-Packard, and decided that the Apple Motorola facility used to be 4-phase, the very large building across the street to the south from the pepper mill will be where we will be meeting. And I think that will be very easily accessible for people to come and be part of the audience, and the seats are very comfortable. We set December 9 for our first regular meeting in December, because we will be, some of us, at excuse me, National League of Cities on the 1st of December when we would regularly meet. The other thing that we heard was a report from the Public Works Director concerning the television outage that we had over the weekend in part of town, especially where I live. And we found out that it was for 2 reasons. One, because we have been putting the utilities underground, and the wires to the cable facility were cut in the process, and partly because of the widening of De Anza Boulevard, some of those wires were cut. Anyway, they worked very hard. I hope everybody got to watch whatever they preferred last night, whether it was a series or the football game or possibly even city
council meeting.
And we hope that that won't happen again. We're very sorry for the inconvenience everyone was caused. And I think that about takes care of last night's activities.
There was more done, Barbara, but you certainly hit the highlights
Right,
of it.
right.
Yes. One of the regular features on this program has been Cupertino Trivia. Now, our Mayor Rogers each time has a question pertaining to either something going on currently in Cupertino or something that's historical about Cupertino. And this question, if you feel you know the answer, simply call 252-4641, and the first person with the correct answer will win a Channel 30 t-shirt. This will be in either teal blue with our logo in black or white with the Channel 30 logo in teal blue. It's your choice. What you do is you leave your name and t-shirt size with the operator, and then you can come by City Hall at any time and pick up your t-shirt. And Barbara, what's your question tonight?
Fortunately, I just found it. The question is, what popular nonprofit women's service organization is sponsoring this year's Dickens Fair at Valco Village? I'll give you a hint. The organization was formed only 2 years ago and sponsors local projects and is dedicated to the service of the deaf and the hearing impaired. So what is the 2-year-old women's service organization that will be sponsoring the Dickens Fair this weekend?
All right, that's a very good question, and that's certainly a worthy cause. Plus, the Dickens Fair is always a lot of fun.
Oh, yes.
And I know you're very actively involved in this, and I'm going to be at the Dickens Fair on Saturday morning working there. And Barbara, I assume you'll be there both days.
At least part of both days,
At least
probably
part.
most of them.
Yes, that's what I thought. All right, if you think you know the answer to the name of that service organization, call 252-4641 and let us know. Okay. Thank you.
You're
Barbara, you did mention the interim council chambers that we will be using, and one of the things that pleased me about that selection is that it's so centrally located that it's easily accessible to all of the citizens of Cupertino. So we should not have a cut in attendance at council meetings.
Right, and I think that's very important.
I do too, and I know that was a major thing for the council decision.
Right.
I know recently the city had its Civic Service Awards, Barbara.
Oh, yes.
For those who were unable to attend or could not watch it on television, it was televised, wasn't it?
It was taped.
That's what
And
yes.
I believe the tapes will be shown this Thursday and then again in November.
Oh.
And those dates will be indicated in the Cupertino scene.
Then maybe we don't want to talk too much about it. Oh, I assume people know who the winners are, though. Perhaps you'd like to tell us about it, who won that night, and a little bit about their background and why they were selected.
You mean all the winners? I don't have that whole list in front of
How
me.
about, there are two, as I understand it, who are Citizen of the Year.
Briefly, the Civic Service Awards were set up by the council 4 years ago not to compete with the Citizen of the Year award, which is given by the Chamber of Commerce to honor people, 1 or 2 citizens each year, who have, over a period of many years, worked very hard on behalf of the good of the community and made Cupertino a better place to live. This is rather to honor the people who, for the last year, have done a specific thing or continued their work, but at least it's been over generally a 1-year span. Because we have so many people who are so involved in this town, to really make it a nice place to live, this seemed like a very important thing to honor them also. And it was in the areas of business, volunteerism, education, I can't remember, a couple of others. And we honored 2 of them particularly by giving them the city's Special Service Award because they had done particularly outstandingly more than others in either the quality or the quantity of the volunteering they had done. And it was a wonderful evening. I've found people who have been busy in town about whom I'd known and known some of their efforts, and people I'd never heard of or seen before, found out some of the wonderful things they've been doing very quietly that are just magnificent. And in fact, our 2 outstanding City Service Award honorees, I think, come from those 2 paths. One was Lily Nitta, who has been very active in the judo club. In fact, I think she's probably one of the stalwarts there, has been very active in everything they've done. She's also very active in the Lung Association, in the sewing class at Cupertino Junior High School, and helping out in the community. And she's done it quietly, but her efforts have really made a difference. And then Jim Jackson, who many of you know, was honored for his contribution in helping get Cupertino National Bank a functioning entity and a very successful one, and also for his work in starting the leadership program for Cupertino, which is a joint effort of the Chamber, De Anza College, and the city. But he's heading it up in a very creative way, as you would suspect, to try to teach the people in the class how government functions. And it was a real privilege to be there and to see these people. It made me feel very proud and yet very humble that so many people are working so hard in our community for very little thanks or recognition.
Oh, we're very fortunate we have so
Yes.
many people in the community who work
Yes.
so hard to make it a better place. What I want to bring up right now, Barbara, is something that's rather exciting to me, and it has to do with a new series that's going to be on Channel 30 starting very soon. It's called The Government and You. And as I understand, it's co-sponsored by the city and the Sunnyvale Cupertino League of Women's Voters.
Right.
And I know so often people come to City Hall either to process an application or to get information, or they come to a council meeting to appear before council, and it can be a little intimidating, and sometimes you don't know the process. And I really believe this program can be a great help in solving some of that dilemma, make people more comfortable with their government, help them to know a little bit more about what it can do, what it can't do, what it does, and perhaps how they can get more involved and become more active in the community.
Right, and in fact, this afternoon, they had taping where they discussed the difference between a charter city, Sunnyvale is one, and a general law city, and Cupertino is a general law city. And the differences were explained legally, and then the mayor of Sunnyvale, Brian O'Toole, and I were interviewed briefly to explain how mayors function in the two different kinds of cities. I'm not sure when that will be aired, but it was very enjoyable, really liked doing it. And when I have a lot of free time, I'm going to learn how to work cameras over there.
That's great. I'm sure the schedule will be in the November Cupertino scene. But now we want to take a very quick break. Stay tuned and think of questions or think of the answer to the trivia question and give us a call. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to Ask the Mayor. Barbara, perhaps you could repeat the Cupertino trivia question for tonight.
I'd be delighted to. What newly established women's service organization, the equivalent of Rotary or Kiwanis, but it's a women's organization, will be sponsoring the Dickens Fair this weekend at Valco Village?
All right. If anyone out there knows the answer to that question, please call 252-4641. Thank you. Just a real quick piece of information about the Dickens Fair. It is this Saturday and Sunday at Valco Village. It's November 1st and 2nd from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. There'll be lots of artisans there, and I assume food booths and
Right.
liquid refreshment booths.
Yes.
And this sounds like a great chance to go out, have a good time, spend some money for a worthy cause, and also to start your Christmas shopping.
Got it.
Perfect. Okay. However, right after next weekend, Tuesday, if you're really interested in probably doing your basic duty as a citizen anywhere in this country, next Tuesday is Election Day. It's a very important election. There are lots of major measures, issues, very high offices to be filled. We don't have a local council election until next year. However, there are certainly many candidates for other offices out there. Please go out and vote. Make it an informed vote. Find out information about the measures. Find out about the candidates. And get out there and vote.
I couldn't have said it better. That's the reason tonight's meet the mayor or ask the mayor as the last meeting, because while we'll be having a council meeting on the 3rd, we would rather you went out and voted on the 4th if you didn't have a chance to during the day than stay home and watch this, perhaps. And everybody will be wanting to listen to the radio or television, I expect, anyway, to find out how their candidates are doing.
I hope so, yes. Following tonight's edition of Ask the Mayor is a program entitled Bicycling to Work. Now, we all know that there are lots of cars out there on the roads, and I don't know about you, Barbara, but when I drive, I always try and keep an eye out for the cyclists, because sometimes they tend to get in the way, and they may not always know the traffic rules.
Yes, unfortunately.
And it seems like this would be a good opportunity if you do bicycle, or if you've ever thought about using it for your transportation. Watch Bicycling to Work and learn the proper way to do it. Might help relieve the commute congestion, too. A big holiday is coming up this weekend. This Friday night is Halloween. And every year, our Parks and Recreation Department sponsors what's called a Ghost Walk. It will be held tomorrow night and Thursday night at McClellan Ranch Park. If you have any questions or want more information about it, call 252-2060, or you could call us here at City Hall, 252-4505, and they'll tell you how to get there. There is a small charge. I believe it's $1.50. And they also request that you bring a canned good. This is donated to the Cupertino Community Services to help feed those who perhaps have a particular time of need. So it should be a lot of fun, and it's safe, and we all want everyone to have a very safe Halloween.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Also, this weekend, there's so many things going on right now, Barbara. The day of all things, the day after Halloween, we have our first fall garbage pickup on Saturday. That will be for the residents west of Stelling Road. That's towards the hills. So either get up, probably the best thing would be to get up early Saturday morning.
Right, and get things out early on. It was held east of Stelling, of course, last weekend. So we were very diligent and got things out. And of course, last weekend was also the Poisons Collection Day, where the cities of Mountain View, Los Altos, and Cupertino are cooperating. And this time, residents from any of those 3 cities could take their household poisons to Mountain View, and 39 people from Cupertino went. And considering the effort involved, we think that's very good. It will be held in Los Altos in the spring, and then we will also be able to take our poisons there from Cupertino and Mountain View as well as Los Altos. And then in the summer, it'll be Cupertino's turn, probably in July, and you'll get notice of that also in the scene.
I was wondering when it was going to be our turn for that.
Right.
We have no idea yet what the site would be. I assume it's a little too far in the
I don't
future.
know. 2 years ago, when we had it in Cupertino for the first time, it was at De Anza. But whether we'll be able to have it again there, I'm not sure.
Well, that's a convenient spot, and everybody knows where it is, so maybe we'll be lucky again. All right, surely some of you have some idea about the Service Club who is sponsoring this year's Dickens Fair. If you even want to make a wild guess, call 252-4641. Or if you have something you wish to talk with Mayor Rogers about, that's 252-4641. Let's get those phone calls in. Okay. Barbara, one of the things that we do with the Cupertino scene, as you are very well aware, is our sound-off cards. Now, very often, people write in with questions that I'm sure other citizens have too, but they either don't have the time to write in, or they may think it's kind of a silly question and they should know the answer. But I think this is a great time to answer some of those questions so that other people can hear the answers too.
I bet you have a couple handy.
I do indeed. One of the things that probably many people do wonder about is whose responsibility is that space between the curb and the sidewalk. There's that little strip where the street trees are planted and such. Is that up to the homeowner to maintain, or is that actually the city's property?
That's the responsibility of the property owner. The only exception, if you want to call it that, to that is that if there's a street tree planted, a city tree, then if it needs replacing, the city can give the homeowner a list of appropriate street trees to go in. And the city does do pruning so that they don't interfere with overhead wires if there are some, that kind of thing. But as far as maintaining the property, making sure that bushes that might be on it don't grow onto the sidewalk or over into the street, that's all the property owner's responsibility.
And this sort of ties into that. If you have a neighbor who's not maintaining either that part of their yard or just their yard in general, and it gets to be a real eyesore type situation, and say I go to my neighbor and I say, you're not maintaining your property, it looks terrible, it could even be a health hazard, ivy's growing all over the place. Do I have any recourse?
The only recourse would be if there were a case of a health hazard, there were things such that it was unhealthy, and there were a clear case of disease being possibly able to incubate there or whatever, or if it were dangerous. Other than that, there's no law that makes a person be a good housekeeper in their yard. The only other exception, and I alluded to that previously, is if it grows over onto the street or onto the sidewalk, the owner of that property can be compelled to trim back that far. But unless there's something that's provable that it's a health hazard or dangerous, there's really nothing we can do.
All right. But if it became a traffic hazard or a health hazard, then they could call City Hall?
Right.
All right. Very good. I assume that would be code enforcement.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Barbara. I know we do get questions like that.
Oh, yes.
Quite a number of times, as a matter of fact. Another very popular area for questions is traffic. And right now, we have so many street improvements going on in the city of Cupertino. One of the major ones, and I'm sure we're all suffering to some degree at this point, is the widening of De Anza Boulevard. I think everybody's noticed it. Barbara, what's going on at De Anza Boulevard, and when do we expect that to be completed? Do we have any idea?
Yes, as you say, it is being widened such that there will be 3 lanes northbound and 4 lanes southbound between 280 and Bollinger. And we're trying to get it accomplished as quickly as we can. I had a problem there this noon. It took me 20 minutes to get from 280 to City Hall. So I understand those of you who feel a little frustrated. But once it's done, it will make traffic flow better. It will move commuters through. It will also move people in town through and make it easier to cross. And we think it will just generally improve things. And as to a final date for completion, the contract says it has to be done by December 1. If it goes any longer, then there will be penalties assigned.
Barbara, I hate to stop, but we have to, and this is our last show. I want to really express my thanks to all of you out there and to everyone who's called in, everyone who watches, and a special, special thanks to the volunteers and the staff who have made this show absolutely possible.
Absolutely. It's been wonderful having a chance to visit with each of you, and really appreciate everything that the staff has done, and you've been a marvelous talk show host.
You've been terrific.
And I guess we just say goodbye, everybody.
That's it. Goodbye. Any questions, call 252-4505, weekdays 8 to 5.
Right.
Good night.